organizing committee, Mr. Fatin, Mr. Turaq, and Simi Majidi Sharqawi, for allowing me and giving me the chance to be present among you here and to discuss a very interesting topic. Yes, of course, from a personal perspective, the topic looks a little bit, new to me because it's outside of a language department specialty. But since I was interested in the title itself, I give myself a chance to delve a little bit into understanding how the state itself, through its mechanisms of control, how it does the control of the budget, the public budgetary. And before I talk to you about the title of my presentation, I'd like first to highlight the previous presentations, because they have given me a chance to get deeper insight and understanding of the topic. And at the same time, they have been able to dissect most of the challenges and the flaws we in Morocco face in terms of exercising and executing those laws of control. So apparently it seems that there is some kind of a crisis, some kind of a problem. To what extent this problem is limited to institutions themselves, or do we actually have a discourse problem? So that's the angle from which I'm going to address this issue of administrative and legal control over public budgetary in Morocco. And I'd like just to add one of the words, if you allow me, of course, to the title, because we have two important words, which are mechanisms and guarantees. So for me, I believe that it's more a crisis of implementation rather than looking for mechanisms and guarantees. So having done a little research over the topic, it seems that Morocco has been able to accumulate a legislative and law arsenal when it comes to controlling the public sector, whether be it at the human resources level or even at the budgetary level. But where does the problem lay? So some of my colleagues have mentioned some of the possible causes from their own perspectives. Of course, that sometimes there are flaws in the interpretation of the law itself. There are flaws at the level of human resources, execution of the laws. I have here chosen an example, and I will address it to you. But before that, I would like just to put you within the framework I'm going to work in, which is critical discourse analysis. So this is one of the most important frameworks which allow us as language users and language practitioners to understand how language functions, not only necessarily at the level of the text, but its implementation and the type of power and ideology it exercises through the institutions that adopt this type of discourse. So just quickly moving directly to the presentation's title, it's the discursive power of institutional discourse. And I will elaborate what that means. And I have taken here the 0322 investment charter as an example. So I will be defining first what I mean by institutional discourse, and then I will tell you a little bit about the methodology I adopted, since this is a practical case study. And the core of the case study, as I have just mentioned, will be the investment charter, which has just been issued by the official bulletin. And I'll have a little bit about a discussion over the analysis and the findings of the analysis, and then move on to the conclusion. Now, let me first start with what discourse is. So, from a linguistic, mere perspective, for the formalists and structuralist schools, discourse simply means language above the clause. The sentence we read constituting of a subject, verb, and object. So this is a very technical and structural definition that was taken and criticized by the functionalists, who told us that we have to go a little bit beyond the structure of the sentence and move on to its functions, how the language is used to convey certain functions. Now, by combining both structuralist and functionalist perspectives, we are able to understand what a certain discourse is trying to tell us. And that's what has been taken by critical discourse analysts who try to look at language use in speech and writing as a form of social practice. Now, the type of discourse you read in a newspaper, you listen to in a TV or on a radio, or you read as a charter or as a law passed by the government or the parliament, it is something that goes beyond its language and linguistic format to the type of ideology and power it exercises over the society. One of these institutions or manifestations of discourse can be seen in institutions, and now we can say institutional discourse. By institutions, we may simply mean the parliament, the government, a school, a hospital, whatever. So any type of institution has a specific discourse. Now, this discourse aims at giving a definition to the participants. It gives them identity, it identifies their roles, and it sits them within a social context. Now, it's also a set of manipulative and power relation ideologies. So there is no discourse which is ideology free. It's always ideology loaded. And I don't want here to delve into what ideology is, etc. Now, I have had a look at this investment charter from a discourse analytical perspective, and as a qualitative analysis in terms of analyzing the text into its form. Now, as a quick reading of this investment charter, I've noticed that there is a general preamble as an introduction which paves the path to the law itself, and it's divided into 7 sections and 24 articles. So usually this is the format of any possible type of law that can be passed by an institution like the government and the parliament. So it's restricted within its limits. It's very clear. It's not very open to interpretations. That's why I believe that it's not a crisis of the law and a crisis of discourse itself, but its implementation and its interpretation, how we do implement it in real life. Now, one of the particularities of the investment charter is that it gets its power from another institution, which is the parliament, also the government, and we cannot forget the monarchy as an authority, which is always giving guidelines. So, and through reading this investment charter, I have noticed that it is a state project rather than a government or an individual party project. There is a reiteration of that the state is always there, the state is the guarantee of everything. Now, how the charter seeks to implement itself is actually through a hierarchical order. It follows a hierarchy, a structure, which is as follows. The government passes the law to the regions and to the regional bureaus of investment. So the hierarchy is controlled, so there is no room for anarchy. Now, again, as I have just mentioned, that the state presents itself as a guarantee through being a provider of funds to investors as a form of solidarity. Now, the second analytical part of the charter has to do with its discursive structure. And I have noticed that the introduction of the charter is built in a way which gives it a lot of strength through what? Through paving the path, presenting the context, and using a set of accumulation accumulations and enumerations. So it sets the scene, it presents the reader with the general context through which Morocco has been able to accumulate a great arsenal of laws, be they by the government or political parties or even the monarchy, so which gives a lot of credibility and strength to the text itself. Also, the text, as I said, it's not open for a lot of interpretation. It's what we call, it's self-referencing. It keeps referring you to itself from an article to an article. So an article explains an article, and of course with an intention to pass another law for further explanation. Now, one of the interesting things about laws passed by the government or the parliament, and this one as an example, is that they use the act of nominalization. They are not open to the use of verbal phrases. They are nominalized in the sense that there are processes that have to be taken by everyone. Of course, the language is characterized by its economy. It's to the point, precise. As I said, the flow is in our interpretation of it. It's not in the text itself. What also gives power to this type of text, it's being able to relate to other texts. And that's what we call intertextuality, with a reference to the government or to the constitution or to the monarchy. And I quickly move on to the conclusion. I have just summarized this charter. It presents itself as a path paver which charts the policies of the government in the sector of investment. It is also a motivator. It presents incentives to the future investors, and it's also a guarantee of the law and its implementation. And that's the important thing. It's law in enforcement. That's what we need in this country, rather than passing more laws. The idea of governance, and then it's a rule definer. It defines the rules and limitations for everything. And thank you so much.
Professor Ayman